Keaton Slovis would be on that short list, if not number one. All right. He threw a couple passes, left the Washington State game. Trojans go down 14-0. If anyone is familiar with the ascension of one Jackson Dart, even before this particular game, very interesting story about his recruitment out of Utah and his prominence in high school football as he became a elite quarterback kind of out of nowhere. Matt, just fill in the blanks in regards to how this all unfolded on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I might add that since Jackson Dart is from Utah and Utah let him slip away, well, Utah could use Jackson Dart now that Charlie Brewer left the program. Just an amazing confluence of plot twists in the Pac-12, including USC, but now also with Utah. But anyway, so USC was down 14-0, and Jackson Dart, he committed 2 turnovers. Like, it wasn't a perfect game, but he shrugged off those turnovers. And the key moment in this game, and we'll see how big a moment this is in USC's season. Last minute of the first half, just under 40 seconds left, USC has 4th and 9 at the Washington State 38, down 14-0. Now, I know a lot of coaches, both in the college and pro ranks, who would just punt the ball. They'd have the mentality, let's get to the locker room, we'll talk to the guys, we'll fix things, just get this done with, punt it away, not take the risk. USC interim head coach Dante Williams, no, we're going to try to score. We're going to try to just do everything we can. And it really proves the point, Mark, that in coaching, coaches so often lose sight of the reality that your decisions in many ways often send a far bigger statement than any speech, any collection of words, any session at a blackboard. Do you trust your players to make plays? Do you trust that the coaching you did in practice during the week leads to bold decision making, which says, I have faith in you to make this play? So USC goes for it on 4th and 9 from the 38 instead of punting. And Jackson Dart throws a beautiful downfield strike to Gary Bryant Jr. for a touchdown. What happens next after it's 14-7 at the half? USC blows the doors off in the third quarter, 28-0. And USC had a really tough time under Clay Helton scoring touchdowns in the third quarter. Didn't score an offensive touchdown in the third quarter against San Jose State. Came out flat at the half against Stanford when Stanford built that 42-13 lead midway through the second half, which caused the exodus of fans from the Los Angeles Coliseum and led to Clay Helton getting fired. The third quarter was in many ways Clay Helton's Waterloo at USC. So what happens in the first game after Clay Helton? 28 points right out of the gate in the third quarter. You think coaching makes a difference? And it all stems from the interim coach, Dante Williams, trusting Jackson Dart with a 4th and 9. He makes a huge play, and the team just, went out like gangbusters in the second half. Like, you could just see the emotions, the attitude, the belief completely change on that USC sideline. This was a team that got pancaked in the first 1.5 quarters, trailing 14-0. Washington State dropped a touchdown pass and then got stopped on 4th and goal at the 2. Could have been 21-0. But as soon as that touchdown pass got completed, there was a sense, you know what? First of all, Jackson Dart is made for this. He's not the moment isn't too big for him. And second, wow, his teammates are going to rally around him. It's exactly what happened in that second half. Washington State didn't score a point in the second half. USC scored 45 straight. So it was truly a 180-degree moment right then, just before halftime.
Got Matt Zemek on the line from Trojans Wire. Please check out his work covering USC football and the drama that ensues at both the head coaching and the quarterback position as USC takes on Oregon State coming up Saturday night. Matt, so now we've got Keaton Slovis, which, of course, just a couple of years ago, he entered a game and took over and threw 30 touchdown passes that season in much similar fashion. So now we've got a quarterback controversy of sorts. How do you shake it out yourself? How do you think it will be determined? What do we know about the injury status of the players as well?
Yeah, it's so fascinating because both Keaton Slovis and Jackson Dart are dealing with injury issues. Now, Keaton Slovis obviously got knocked out of that game in the first quarter against Washington State. Dante Williams, the interim head coach, said that he would be able to practice. He said on Sunday he'd be able to practice this week, and that news came fairly soon. So, Keaton Slovis seems reasonably healthy. I mean, not 100%, but certainly healthy enough to practice. But then Dante Williams said on his Monday night coaches show for USC that Jackson Dart was day to day. And, he was limping throughout that Washington State game. He took a helmet to the knee and he was limping around. And he wore a knee brace coming out of the locker room at halftime. Didn't have the knee brace on in the first half, but when he came out of the tunnel for the second half, the start of the third quarter, yeah, he had a knee brace on. So, Dante Williams has a question in terms of he's really not evaluating how good these guys are. He's really evaluating their health this week. That's really the foremost consideration. I mean, Jackson Dart is almost certain to be the guy in 2022, especially after this performance. I mean, USC has some other really elite quarterback recruits coming in, such as like Devin Brown. There are others in the pipeline. There's also, of course, Miller Moss, who is a backup on this year's team. But Jackson Dart clearly stamped himself as the likely starter for 2022 at this performance. And of course, Dante Williams, he's not likely to be the head coach in 2022. We'll see if he's on staff or not. He's obviously auditioning for whatever job he can get, whatever job he wants, at least, to the fullest extent possible. So he has to take care of Jackson Dart's health. He has to think long-term about Jackson Dart and making sure that he's not being overextended, that, maybe this is a week where he has to pull back and rest. And it's a very tricky situation, as you could imagine, Mark, because USC, this season is still just beginning, and you want to win the Pac-12. You want to go to the Rose Bowl, but you know that if you're Dante Williams, you're not going to be in that head coaching chair almost certainly. And so you have to just make sure that you take care of your players. And that's really the best thing you can do, not just for your players themselves, but also in terms of, if you're going to interview for another job, you want to have that reputation. You want to know that if you're going to be recruiting somewhere else, that players are going to say, oh, he had Jackson Dart's back. He was looking out for his best long-term interests. So that's part of the very tricky calculus. It's really not a quality of performance advantage in practice. It's really going to be more of a health evaluation in practice this week. I think that if Jackson Dart is reasonably healthy and USC does its vetting and makes sure that medically Jackson Dart is okay, he'll get the start. But we have to wait and see about that first.